Well, great education there. Well, Gifty, we have to do the newspapers.
We definitely have to do the newspapers. I'm starting with the Daily Graphic, penny. All right, so I have...
I love this one.
No, but of course, Daily Graphic has been around for a very, very long time. So let's start with the Daily Graphic. What does it say? It comes with a picture of Mr. Alhassan Andani. It says Managing Director of Stambik. Of course, that's his name. Graphic host guest editors. Alhassan Andani takes 10 on Thursday. Interesting what they'll be talking about. Details of that are on page 13. And then Zoom Lion disinfects Naval Command. But big story on the front page of the Daily Graphic is that story that we brought to you both yesterday and today, that in the fit of rage, landlord shoots tenant. It comes with a picture of Victor Stephen Nanaka and Kam, the landlord, and then the 31-year-old Benjamin Autry, the victim. It shows you also a picture of the house that was burnt down. That story is on the front page. On the back page, we have Turkish embassy supports vulnerable households. Comes with a picture of Mrs. Özlem Ergun Olerin, the Turkish ambassador to Ghana, presenting food parcels to Abubakar Sadiq Boniface, Minister of State at the office of the Office of the Vice President, I should say. Then Kwai Bibrim Assembly installs hand washing facility at Lorry Park and Market. Not something that we've been looking forward to happen in Ghana. So we'll take a cue from Kwai Bibrim and see if we can perhaps, spread it across the country. Center spread, what does it say? Special feature it has, fighting COVID-19, wear mask, maintain social distance. That's what it says here. And it comes with pictures of people who are yam sellers, I think, at that Bublushi market, as well as onion sellers, all in Bublushi market. It's a piece put together by Timothy Ngebe, and I'm sure that it's a very interesting piece on how we can make this a part of our lives as of now. So that's it for the Daily Graphic. I'm sure we can later look at some of the specific stories. Let me move on to the Statesman. All right, let me follow that I think with the Ghanian Times. I'm going to follow the Daily Graphic with the Ghanian Times. Ghanian Times comes with a picture of Professor Stephen Owusu Kwachi, who says, brace up for economic setbacks. Population expert urges businesses. And talking about which, yesterday the German economy went into recession. That's a conversation we had here with our partners DW yesterday on the JoyNews channel. Very interesting times, I must say. Not so exciting.
Definitely.
Yeah. And then it also has another story. It says landlord arrested for killing tenants. That story is on page 3. That story we brought to you, the big story between yesterday and today so far. Then Eastern Western Naval Commands benefit from Zoom Lion disinfection exercise. The story is on page 12. And it comes with also pictures of people wearing masks and what you ought to do, what you ought not to do when you wear a mask. I'm going to go straight to the center spread, see what it has over there. On the center spread, it has a story that we found on the main page. Brace up for economic setbacks. Then we have Ghana's COVID-19 confirmed cases now 6,808, and it comes with a picture of the health minister, Mr. Kukwajima Menu, as well. Then 12 COVID-19 patients at Volta Region National Medical Village and Innovation Center responding to treatment. It comes with a picture of the National Medical Village and Innovative Center at Daklu Womenu. And then the Eastern Western Naval Commands benefit from Zoom Line disinfection exercise. That's also the back page. So yesterday it rained, right? And I used to say this, that when it rains, sometimes as a reporter, you just imagine the visuals you take previously, or you took previously, and sometimes you can put them side by side and the story will be the same. That's a sad story of flooding in Accra. So on the back page it says, Abofo residents live in fear of imminent floods. And it comes with a picture of flooding, the Odo River flooding, and part of it that has been eroded as part of the flooding as well. And then another story there, 6 youth in Sisala East trained in agri-entrepreneurship. So this is the Ghanian Times as it follows the Daily Graphic. Roland, you want to have a go with what you have? Yeah,
so I have the Daily Guide. Let me just quickly go through the Daily Guide. It has on the front page, Zoom Lion disinfects Navy vessels. And we also do have a Abronya files counter complaint against Mahama. And it has an attached picture of Abronya DC. That's a caption, I'd say. All right. We also do have 2020 election is about records, not violence. Meanwhile, we also have a story caption, 2070 recovers, COVID-19 cases hit 6,808. On the back page of the Daily Guide is a story about an ex-football player of one of the biggest Brazilian teams, is one of the biggest, the one played by the great Pele himself, Sao Paulo. And it says, I sold my medal for cocaine, ex-Sao Paulo star. And he just talks about his problems with addiction and how that wrecked his career. Yeah. It's a predicament that many find themselves in. God be with everybody. All set for ISA reality show, and ISA is the Avenue International Soccer School Agency reality show. It says the CEO of the academy is Reverend Nelson Kofi-Poku. His picture is there. Shatta and I have nothing in common. Ghana Football Association chief says he has... Okay, Shatta and I have something in common. Pa, 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 pa. Good morning to Stoneboy too. Bim, bim. Charlie, for balance that. So Ghana Football chief Keto Kreku says he has something in common with dancehall star Shatta Wale, pa, 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 known in private life as Charles Ni Ama Mensah. Notwithstanding the difference in their careers, he attributed their humble beginnings as the main... I'm not sure. Shatta's beginning is humble. It's not really like a poor guy.
I mean, that's if you're trying to do a bit of comparison between Shatta and someone like Stoneboy. I mean,
yeah, because Stoneboy be hustler. Shatta
be hustler like me.
Hustler, yeah. But I mean, he still associates with those in the hood. But we also do have other stories. Let's look at the ones occupying the front page of the Daily Dispatch newspaper. Good morning to you, Uncle Benefson, and you and I had a great conversation yesterday evening on many other related issues of mutual concern. And then there's a story caption leading the main front page headline. It says, Akufo-Addo's easing of restrictions. Some schools have 50 kids per class. Will they infect their parents? Can churches also practice social distancing? Well, it's a big question. I don't know what all of you... Maybe tomorrow we'll do a show like that.
About what?
Maybe this question.
Can churches do social distancing?
Yes, some schools have 50... Akufo-Addo's easing of restrictions. Some schools have 50 kids per class. Will they infect their parents? Can churches practice social distancing? Which church do you attend?
I'm a Methodist.
Fantastic.
I'm a Methodist of the... I'm a member of the Bethel Methodist Church at Tema Community. Which one do you
usually visit? Because I know...
Seriously?
That's why international.
Oh, my Methodist is very charismatic.
Very charismatic.
I mean, when you get there, but for the pews and perhaps the apparel by the priests.
Where is the church?
It's in Tema.
Okay.
Tema Community
Methodist,
8. Shout out to all of them and also to my pastor.
You guys, you call your people pastors? Your church?
Reverend ministers, yes. They're Reverend ministers.
Election 2020. Consult political parties. Ajinasari to Electoral Commission. It's also on the front page of the Daily Dispatch newspaper. Full details of NDC's rate against EC and Attorney General over new voters register. And we'll share insight into this story with you. Details, it says NDC sues EC Attorney General over new voters register. All this story there. And then we seem to have the Member of Parliament for Dade Kotopong, who used to be a former Deputy Minister of Communications. And the story is on page 2 of the Daily Dispatch. You can see it, but I'm telling you, it says, revocation of my appointment, not due to incompetence. Vincent Sowa Odote. Allah.
That's an interesting story.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
but not due to incompetence, but what does it state in that report?
It says I'm appointed by the president, even though he said he will not give up the reasons why he will not give the reasons. Okay. He has no issues with the president, as he has the prerogative to hire and fire.
Well, can you have an issue with the president?
It says the president called to tell me I had been relieved of my position. I would rather not discuss that, why I was relieved. And then he also added that he still has a good relationship with the Minister for Communications, Eslaus Ekufo. My relationship with her is very good. I do not have issues with her, and if I have the chance, I will work with her again.
It'll be interesting to have him on a one-on-one sort of thing, you know, have a conversation about what he thinks his legacy at the ministry has been, and what he's doing at the moment as well. You know?
Yeah, because the election is just 5 months away.
Of course.
That's why we're having this conversation on the... Okay, let's do the last one. We have the economy.
Okay.
The Economy Times says, Ghana records $936 million trade surplus for first 3 months.
Oh wow! When Germany is going into recession, and that sounds like good news, no? Okay, so are you done with that one?
Yes. First time for me. So CAP business support scheme, government clears fear of disbursement being a political slush. And we'll have an interaction with the MBSSI boss on the show. So great to see the inside.
I have the Daily Statesman and the find that the Daily Statesman has a big story. Zongos are dear to NPP, and that's Ekufo-Addo reiterating his determination to transform over 5 million lives through the Zongos. It also comes with a picture of the minority spokesperson on health, and the story is NDC's health expert, and they put the health expert in quote, exposes deep ignorance on COVID-19. And then it also has a picture of Hajia Abibata, who is a deputy Maslow head. She said, the story says Hajia Abibata debunks vote buying claims against her by detractors. That story is on page 2. Now that's a woman I know personally. She's trying to get into parliament for Yendi. It's a very difficult area. She's battling, you know, other contenders as well. I wish her all the best. Zongos are dear to NPP, where I said that story already. Okay, on the back page of the Statesman's football, players leave the national team with pain. I want a rousing farewell when I retire. That's Asamoah Gyan speaking. And Premier League coronavirus testing, Bournemouth player one of two new positives. Okay, I'm not quite sure what that story is. I guess some of the players have tested positive. Let's take a look at what they have in the center spread. Well, the center spread has Dr. Gansa stimulus package. Okay, Dr. Gansa is saying that stimulus package must give preference to persons with disability with businesses, and I think that's a great idea. That certainly ought to be done. FDA destroys 4 tons of seized Coa FS and others in Cape Coast. Now, this conversation about Coa FS is still ongoing. People believe that there's something, you know, not right about all of this. But yeah, this is the FDA, so that's what the Daily Statesman says. The Finder newspaper talks about the story that Roland, you were referring to earlier, how to open schools, religious places. Large-scale measures may not be of limited effect without individual responsibility. That's what the story says. It's on page 2. Then Dr. Baumiaka sought for construction works to begin on Barracks Roads, and 7 million cedis needed to complete 100-bed infectious disease facility. Claim that May's salary will delay is false. That's according to the controller. On the back page, all right, it's an advert for the Finder newspaper. So in the center spread, they have all the stories listed on the front page, and they also ask COVID-19 recoveries rise to 2,070. 7 million needed to complete 100 million bed. Okay, the story is there. Then Diamond Cement donates. Ghana rejects inclusion in money laundering blacklist. That's also a story that comes with the picture of the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta. So this is what I have for the Finder. I guess that's it, Roland? Yeah, definitely. And make a pick. I'm sure you have made a pick. Well, I'm not sure I have yet.
And I'm going to focus on the subject of related concerns and then unconcern by the Electoral Commission on the one part, and then the political party, particularly the NDC and the rest of the parties, and related issues also being raised. Because on the front page of the Daily Dispatch newspaper is a story captioned Election 2020 Consult Political Parties, and the story is on page 2. And Gifty, let me just give you a sneak peek into what the story says, because it's been captioned Ajinasari to Electoral Commission, and it says the founder of Paris Chapel International, Bishop Charles Ajinasari, has counseled the Electoral Commission to involve all stakeholders in these plans for a successful election. And if we do an aggregation of views, it's one of the reasons why we decided to do this whole dialogue about what the think tanks and those who tend to observe our governance process, our electoral process, about how far we are and what we need to do, whether we have to compile a new voters register. Or
I think that's pretty much a done deal.
Okay,
I mean, the Electoral Commission has made it clear that they're going all the way out to get this done. I mean, despite the disagreement and all of that. So I don't know if that's a conversation we can talk about. We can get people's perspective on whether or not that's what we need really going into an election in these times. But I think that the Electoral Commission is pretty much made up its mind,
So then the related issue is that we're not in normal times because of coronavirus. So how do we then draw people who fit into that bracket or demographic of being would-be voters to come and register? Knowing that they will have fears. Yesterday we had a conversation asking good psychiatrists and immunologists and all those experts about whether people have apprehensions, what usually are their concerns when they have to go out to knowing that it's a period of coronavirus.
I'll be interested to find out what people think. I'd love to hear from you whether you will go out to vote or you will go out to register should they start the process right now. I want to find out from you if you will go out. Will you go out to register
for
a new voters register for new voters ID? If the doors are open for that to happen, it'll be interesting to find out what people think. You find people who would want to go out. You find people who would not want to. I don't know
whether also we can dovetail that into sometimes the observation you make when you speak to people who said, "I'm not going to vote." And for reasons sometimes you think it's not plausible. Perhaps doesn't make sense in the quote.
I mean, that was part of the conversation before COVID came in. Now that COVID has come in, I don't know what people think. Whether they'll think, there isn't much you can do. Whether the coronavirus and how government has handled it will give them any change of mind. Whether the coronavirus and how the opposition has responded to it will give them any change of mind. I'm not quite sure. But I think that people, there was a bit of an apathy, a level of apathy. When we launched the election headquarters, we went to Accra to find out from people what they thought. Some of the market women were like, look, we keep voting. One party promises us this, another promises us that. None of them deliver. We're tired. We're not voting. But there are people who say, I am going to vote. And even if I don't have fingers at the time of voting, I'll use my toes to vote. I've heard people say that as well. So, Roland, let me look at this story about the landlord that shot the tenant. I don't know if it has anything to do. So yesterday when the story came up, people were saying, well, coronavirus, people don't have money to pay rent. And that's a subject, it's something that has been a part of the conversation at the press conferences. We had this Works and Housing Minister come to talk about rent and the arrangement and all of that. I think it's a very interesting part of the conversation. People really don't seem to have money at the moment. So how do you balance the situation with COVID? Some people have lost their jobs and paying your rent. Because I don't know what happened between these two people. Maybe they were even friends. But out of rage, the things that we do, I think it's important that we reflect, we calm down to reflect on some of these things. Now you've killed a human being. I mean, allegedly, you've killed a human being. You say it was out of self-defense, but now the person is gone. What have you achieved, So, I don't know. I just wanted to point to this story and let people understand that, I mean, the actions you take when you're angry may just come back to haunt you. And in these times, hard times, maybe we want to go a bit low on our demands for our monies. If you are a landlord, if you own a property, to go easy. And if you are in someone's property, there's also a way you talk to them you know. It's the way you talk to them that they'll understand. They're human beings. Hopefully, they will understand.
Well, that is why the courts are there, and those charges will be preferred according to the criminal code we have in our country. And I know that the best decision will be made by the courts based on what pleas that they will be hearing.
It's just sad.
Yes,
it's just sad.
But
so Roland, we were talking about this story about Ghana records 936 million US dollars trade surplus for first 3 months. Why did you find it mind-boggling?
Because when you look at generally our international trade, we've always recorded deficits, and deficit basically means that we tend to basically import more than export, and so those receipts ultimately would mean that there's certain imbalance. So people rather from their countries tend to export more into our country than we tend to export out of our country. So the difference is what they call the trade surplus. Now ultimately, what it also means is we could assign reasons, and the reasons are that we've not opened our gateways. There's not been much demand locally. So too, there hasn't been the appetite for those exporters from those respective countries to be having the opportunity to bring in goods into our country in the sub-region. And that ultimately also has had an effect on what their revenue and target would be and what also ours would be. What is good though, that is perhaps we need to take a good insight into why we are where we are currently and the advantages that we can take out of this. It also means that even though people are in lockdown in Ghana, they certainly would have been demanding of certain goods.
Which is, I'm reading here from the story, something that has to do with gold. That I'm seeing here, it says, according to the data from Bank of Ghana, the total exports for the first 3 months of this year was 3.936 billion US dollars. Gold exports amounted to 1.473 billion dollars. Cocoa exports $959.5 million dollars, and oil exports. So it's like gold, cocoa, and oil. That's what the story is.
Yeah, definitely. And it's all because the commodities exchange market of the world has not been traded that much. Even though, of course, we've seen some excessive losses because of crude oil prices going down. It's a two-way affair. So we also have not been demanding more. We've not been exporting more of it or getting the revenues, and more so, we've also not been importing, because the demand has been low, movement has been slow, etc. in the country. Subsequently, I'm thinking perhaps if we look at the sort of traditional export of commodities that we tend to trade in, we will focus more on the things that ultimately will bring a lot of value for either farmers or for those who trade in other sorts of non-traditional exports.
So, will you go out to register? That's a big question I want you to think about.
I think for you and I, it's easy for us to register, so we don't tend to bother. But for the ordinary Ghanaian, it's difficult. They need to have a reason why they need to go out and register. And I believe that the Electoral Commission, foremostly, is clothed with that independence and the responsibility to undertake the education prior to the registration. Then the decision would have to be made by the voter. Do I need to go in or not? Would I get infected or not?
How do I go in? All right, myjoyonline.com, what does it say? I don't fear for my life or die we die. That's Kennedy Japan speaking there. That's also an interview that we'll be bringing to you here on the show. And yeah, that's our top story on My Joy Online. If you go further down, Ghana Navy personnel test positive for coronavirus. That's a story that Maxwell Agbagba has been working on as well. And 164 workers of Anglo-Gold Ashanti, South Africa test positive. So that's why they're saying we should learn to live with this disease. It's all over the place. People are testing and recovering. All right, so that's myjoyonline.com. Get on that page, take a look at the stories there. Take your time and inform yourself as well. And Roland, what next to it?
Well, definitely. No, this is the time I use for shout out. Shout out to everybody. Justice, I would say you work with the University of Ghana. Good morning to you, your wife and children. I haven't finished. There's a second and a third.
Dear Lord.
It's a happy birthday to you, Michaela. Okay. Michaela Owusu at Bremine. May the Almighty God and Allah bless you. And this is from Larry Razak, right here in the studio. And Salif for Combat, you're in Boku. Good morning to you. Good morning to you. It's been a while, and we'll catch up. Take us for a break.
All right. So Tafim is also watching the show. Thank you very much. He just texted me. You know, I'm not like you. All right. So we're gonna take a break, right? And we'll return, and then we'll have our conversation, a very big conversation. My question to you this morning is, will you go out to register for the new voters register if it's opened right now?